This is UMass basketball.
I know this. I'm the most animated coach that you've probably ever seen on my team.
Thompson in the front court. Thompson will lay it in. And one. Hey, he's just being Frank.
That is right. Welcome back to another episode of Just Being Frank, presented by our friends at the Massachusetts Collective. We are coming at you from the Champion Center here in Amherst. My name's Jay Burnham, voice of the Minutemen, alongside head coach for UMass men's basketball, Frank Martin. Coach, good afternoon. How'd practice go today?
Man, you got me today. I mean, I just got off the floor. Practice was good. Was good, but I'm a little tired right now, Jay. I'm usually, we do this before practice, so you get the chipper side of me.
That's okay.
You're going to get the old tired man in this one here today.
I'll do my best to lift our spirits, and spirits should certainly be high. UMass is coming off their first conference game of the season on Wednesday against Duquesne, an 80-61 victory. Before we go any further, please take a look at the Massachusetts Collective. They are a group dedicated to helping build the men's and women's basketball programs and student athletes here in Amherst. You can check them out at themasscollective.com. Coach, 19-point win over a very good opponent in Duquesne. You know, you've had a day to kind of digest that W. You know, how did you feel your team performed in the A-10 opener?
Yeah, I was real proud of them. The average person who follows college sports doesn't understand the dynamic that exists between seniors and freshmen. Guys that are freshmen can have whatever number of stars. It's a different world emotionally and mentally than what a 22, 23-year-old senior is in. They got 8 seniors. We got 8 freshmen. And I was real proud of our guys because Duquesne's good. They've proven who they are in non-conference play with some of the teams they played against and some of the wins they got. And the fact that we were able to we talk a lot about staying the course and not getting wrapped up emotionally on the good or the bad of a moment or a game. And I thought our guys were like level-headed. They were consistent. Emotions stayed out of the good plays and the bad plays. It was always about the next play. And I thought we did that fairly well. And then our game plan of just attacking the paint, because they're really aggressive defensively. I mean, they're good defensively. They get out there and hound you. And, obviously Josh didn't give us I don't say he didn't play well. He just started picking up fouls and we couldn't get his contribution with his inside presence. So we had to create that through our guards and our dribble penetration. And I thought we had some great dribble drives. And then I thought we had some great cuts, like really, because they're such ball hawks defensively that as soon as the ball sticks somewhere, man, they zone up in that ball. And we had some guys make some great timely cuts, and we made some really good passes. So I was really proud of the guys.
You just brought up a couple of things because there's a lot to unpack from this game because you have so many young guys. And you talked about it at the open there. Duquesne is a 9-win non-conference team. They were picked to finish at the top of the Atlantic 10. And one of the reasons why is because they have multiple guys coming back who have scored over 1,000 points in their career. Day Grant is going to get 2,000 points by the end of the season in his illustrious career. But because of the foul trouble to Josh Cohen, I got the box score right here. He only played 14 minutes. Yep. So that put a lot of pressure on a guy like Daniel Hankins Sanford. And I just wanted to see, if you could comment on, he played 24 minutes. He was 4 of 6 from the floor for 10 points. What did you think his contributions were and how that lifted your team?
Yeah, I going into Hawaii, he coming out of the gate, because he missed the whole preseason with that foot injury.
That's right.
And then coming out of the gate, he looked like he just got shot out of a cannon. His aggressiveness and whatever. But then, like everyone else, practice, he started getting a little bogged down. And that's what happens to most young guys. They don't know how to practicing really competitively every day bogs them down. It's the difference between freshmen and even though he played last year South Carolina, I think he played 8 games or so. So it's the equivalent of a freshman. So he going into Hawaii started really locking in again with, and not just to play well, his engagement physically and mentally. His activity level was really good. I thought his activity level in Hawaii was really good, and he continued that coming back from Hawaii and against Siena. I told him after the Siena game, I thought he was, because Josh didn't play well against Siena. Yeah. And I thought Dan's activity, his pursuit of the ball, his defensive presence in the low post allowed us to beat Siena. And he continued that in the practices leading into Duquesne. And obviously this time the ball went in for him. So he gave us a presence defensively, gave us a presence offensively. And he was, Dan's a strong athletic kid. And when he continues to learn how to utilize those God-given strengths that he has and continues to grow as a player, he's got a chance to be pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you might underestimate how much touch and feel he has from a shot perspective and from a range perspective because of his size, but he can step out and shoot the mid-range.
Yeah, no, Dan's your typical young player in college. He's got the ability to become a really good shooter. He just has to continue to learn to work at it. And it's not just go out there and shoot 500 balls. It's having your mind connected with shooting 500 balls. And that's his personal challenge. If he's going to he's got the ability to be a real good shooter. He's not there yet. But if he puts his mind and his commitment to it, if he allows the stuff that, Jayden, that Keon, that Rasul, that those guys have grown in, which is they stay in the gym and shoot balls. If Dan, he don't run out of here, but he's not yet to the commitment that those guys are on their own time to shoot balls. When he learns to do that, and he will, he's got the chance to become a really good shooter.
Yeah, and really, I think kind of picked you guys up, especially in that second half with the fouls to Josh Cohen, who has been the go-to guy, for your offense quite a few times this year. And then there was a moment there where you needed somebody because of the minutes for Hank and Sanford, the fouls on Cohen. You had to go to the bench and bring in Matuk Majok, the freshman.
Yeah.
We saw the longest stretch that we've seen from him in a game that was really a 3-possession game. It wasn't a blowout at that point. I thought he did a pretty good job, Coach, in terms of establishing post presence and also a couple of good defensive plays. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, we had taken Duquesne out of a lot of the stuff they were trying to run. So by that point of the game, they had become more of a kind of space us and try to drive us team. So it allowed the game to be a little simpler for him. So he just had to worry about his matchup and then protect the rim. He didn't have to worry about guarding all these cuts and screens and all that stuff. But give him credit. When his number was called, he went out there and did that. He defended his man and he protected the rim. And then offensively, it's the challenge with Matuk right now is the lack of basketball experience that he has in his background. And so there's, whether it's terminology or it's the quick language thing in the middle of a game.
Yeah.
Offensively, everyone's running something and he figures it out 3 seconds later. So by the time he adjusts to where he needs to be, the floor spacing's messed up. So it creates problems. So when he went in there, I called some really, really simple stuff. And the guys were disciplined. They ran it and allowed him to just play in his space and comfortably.
He's 3 of 3 from the floor, by the way. Hasn't missed a shot in his short tenure here. Of course, a couple of those were lob dunks, but I thought that was an interesting way. I mean, you look at the box score from that Duquesne game. I mean, you're utilizing everybody in different ways to make an impact. And, did it say something about your team? You're saying, hey, Josh Cohen's not getting 25 today. We'll get to Matt Cross in a second. He had to deal with an unfortunate injury. Hey, we got to figure out how to be a different team, but still have the same kind of team mentality.
Yeah. Jay, it's back in early October. I think after our exhibition game, I had to answer every question like I do every year. When are you going to cut your rotation? It's not what I do, man. I was a high school coach, Jay, and and it used to get me. Guys would come in to recruit our players. And then, when you're Udonis Haslam, Steve Blake, whatever, you get to college, you play right away because that's your talent level. But there are other guys that had to earn their way on the court because they had to grow into college basketball. But when guys came to recruit them, says, "Oh man, you're great, you're great, you're great." Okay, then they get to college and they don't play. So then those kids would call, and I'm not into calling coaches to say, "Yo, why is he ain't playing?" But when the kids call, I have a responsibility to them. And so then I'd call coach and say, "Well, they're not ready." I said, "So why didn't you tell them that? Why didn't you just say to them they're not ready?" Or they'd say, "Well, he's not quite good enough." Well, why didn't you say that in recruiting, that this was going to be a 3-year project, not a let's go because we think you're a great guy? So when I recruit these guys, my conversations with them are pretty clear, pretty simple. And my whole thing is, I've always been a big believer since I got to college. If I recruit guys and I express to them that I think you can help us right away, then they better do their job, which is force me to play them. And if they force me to play them, I got to figure out a way to play them. I can't, if we're recruiting somebody and I say like, "Hey man, your freshman year, we think maybe you can help, but we're projecting you as a 2-3 year down the road guy." That's a different animal. Now he shows up and he can play, he's going to play. But if he can't, that conversation was had ahead of time, so there's no confusion. So it's the way I manage things. We had a brand new team. I only had 3 returning players. So when we recruited these freshmen, every one of them, I couldn't say you're going to play and you're not going to play. I never coached any of them. I had no idea. So they're doing their jobs, and when they do their jobs, it's my job to throw them out there and get them ready.
Yeah, one guy, Jaylen Curry, 16 minutes. He was 5 of 6 from the free throw line. He's really been nails from the line and a career high 15 points. It felt like there were times where you're saying, okay, maybe you're going to give Keon Thompson a rest. Let's see what Curry can do and running the offense and defensively. I think you've talked about his ability there. Those are some big time minutes for one of your freshmen in Jaylen Curry.
Yeah, and at the point guard spot,
Yeah.
it's it's the hardest place on the court. You look back a year ago to Keon Thompson. Keon would miss a jump shot. He'd get in his feelings, and then he wouldn't guard. Well, Jaylen's kind of gone through that because his jump shot hasn't been falling, and it's the adjustment of college basketball. And you don't get to shoot it just whenever you want to either. You got to shoot it. When you got Josh Cohen, who's shooting 62% from the field, and Matt Cross, who's shooting 59% from the field, or at least from 2, you can't go shoot jump shots without passing the ball in half court till that ball touches those guys' hands. And, that's an adjustment for first-year guys. Jacob Pullen, who played for me at K-State, I'll give you a great example. Okay, Michael Beasley averaged 26 points, shooting 59% from the field. Bill Walker averaged 17 points, shooting like 51% from the field. Jacob Pullen was a freshman and guarded those guys. He'd lose his mind because I wouldn't let him shoot before those 2 guys touched the ball. And he couldn't comprehend that. And then I had a senior who had been starting for 3 years, not for me, for other coaches, but now is my first year as a head coach. He comprehended that. So the senior would run the offense and make sure those guys got a touch before he let it go. And Jacob, his whole freshman year, couldn't understand that his thought process was messed up. He eventually figured it out. He helped us. He had a great game. We played Kansas, number 2 in the country at home, and Jacob had 20. And, he had games where he played well, but he couldn't comprehend, and that was his challenge his whole freshman year.
Yeah,
and by the way, he ended up a first-team All-American, leading scorer in the history of the school, all that other stuff.
Not bad.
And he went through those struggles as a freshman. It's not like that's people hating on anybody. He ended up becoming really, really good player.
Do you feel, what this team has been through? Do you feel like these guys are no longer just fresh in the school? I mean, does it feel like they've gathered significant experience now, 13 games in?
Yeah, I mean, you can give me 10 seniors, and I'm always thinking that something's going to go wrong. It's just the way I'm wired. I'm always being proactive to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure we're in the right place. Uh, Having never been through a season with 90% of this roster, I'm real happy with the consistency that we go about our business every day. I'm the commitment to playing our way from every guy across our roster. When you go into a season with young guys, whether they're transfers or freshmen, that's the concern you have as a coach. Because if you're one of those teams that, you know, today you win because of your defense, tomorrow you wins because of your offense, there's no personality there. So you're always flip-flopping, so it's hard to stand for something. When you can go out there and every time you play, there's a discipline. Doesn't mean you win every game, but there's a discipline that your team plays through to give it a personality. You got a chance. At least that's the way us coaches, most of us at least, think that way. This team, for such a young team, has created that. Now, can we do that Sunday at Dayton? I got no idea. I ain't been through it with them. I had a media person ask me after the game, how are they going to handle the Dayton crowd? Because it's 16,000 people. I told the media, I said, it's not going to faze me. I'm fortunate. I've been in all kinds of arenas. Matt Cross, he's played in a lot of big arenas and, you know, Duke and all that. So I'm sure it's not going to faze him. But all these other guys, how does it faze them? I got no idea. Now, I'm not going to be practicing. Hey, man, they're going to be yelling at you. No, we're here to play ball, and we're here to pay attention to what we do. We're not here to worry about the crowd and how loud it is. But, you know, we got to make sure that emotionally we don't get tied into the emotion of the building. We get tied into the emotion of our team, which is what we've done so far this year.
Okay, so we're recording this on Friday. The Dayton game is on Sunday. We'll try to get this out Friday afternoon, evening. And before we talk about that situation, I did want to just check in on Matt Cross. I mean, this guy, there's a reason why the fans, my mom included, love Matt Cross, myself included too. I mean, he's just such a tough kid, and he took a couple of blows in that game. It looked like maybe, you know, he might not come back, and then he comes back to start the second half. How is he doing in terms of recovering from that game?
He's fine. He's a little beat up, you know. It's but he's fine. It's yesterday was a mental day. We came on the court and we just walked through some things and talked about some things. And today we competed. We purposely subbed him in and out today in practice because he plays with such reckless abandon that, you know, if you don't say a word, he's going to stay out there. So we purposely subbed him in and out today. So today wasn't as taxing. Not tomorrow's a go day for him. On Saturday it's a go day. He's got to be ready to go mentally and physically from 0 to 100, and then lock in and, you know, get on that plane and then get off the plane and get his mind, his body right, and then lay it on the line like he always does come game time on Sunday.
You actually just mentioned something there. You guys kind of had an off day or a down day. There was some downward facing dog and yoga mixed in there. I thought I saw Coach Tony is like, where are you guys going? He's like, oh, we're going to do some yoga. Where did that come from? And did you partake? And what did the team think about it? A yoga session.
I mean, requirement number one to do yoga is you have to be able to touch your toes. If I touch my toes, you got to pull my body together. I couldn't do it on my own. So no, I did not partake. It's one of the good things about this time of year. One of our own, John Calipari, he always talks about, Cal's awesome, because he comes out with all these little words and everyone gives him credit like he invented everything and he loves it. And he came out some years ago and he said, and December's when I tweak. And the word was tweak. And everybody was like, oh, he tweaked it. He tweaked it. What happens in December, and most of us do it, there's no academic responsibilities. And like there's no academic responsibilities, you don't have to take days off. You can do something with them every day. So yesterday was, instead of after a game, beating them up in the weight room, beating them up on the court. Yesterday would typically have been a day off, mandatory. But now, instead of day off, let's do yoga, something different. It's healing for the body. It's good for athletes. It's flexible. It helps regenerate eliminate, the lactic acid in your muscles. And it gets you in a peaceful place mentally. And so it was awesome. And then we came on the court, walked through some stuff, go rest. Today we're pretty good at practice. And like I said, and now tomorrow we got to, we play, and some guys play a passive brand of basketball. So in preparation, you can be passive. We're the opposite. We're an aggressive mindset. You can't be an aggressive mindset and prepare laid back. Preparation has to equal the mindset that you're trying to play with. And that's the great thing when you get older guys, is that you can kind of back off a little bit between games because you got guys that already live it. We still not ready to do that because we got too many young guys.
You've got young guys. We'll talk about this, you and I, for the pregame show on Sunday morning, but you have young guys going on the road for a true road game for just the second time this year. You guys did go down to Towson in the non-conference slate. I think there's snow on the way as we record this, so you got to adjust the travel schedule to get out of here in time, and you got to play the preseason favorite in the Atlantic 10 and the team that's been at the top of the league for quite some time. So how do you prepare for Dayton? And they do so many things so well. What is the focus when you attack a team like that?
Well, before I go to Dayton, in the world of basketball, when you refer to someone as a footer, you're not about playing against a 7-footer.
Yeah.
Well, Deron Holmes is not quite a footer, but he's touching 6'11". In the world of New England, when you say a footer, you're referring to a nor'easter. Well, that's what we got coming while we're in Dayton. We got a foot of snow coming our way. So
you got a double footer on the horizon.
Oh my God. I can just imagine when we get off that plane, the stuff that we're going to have to, drive through to get home. But that's the beauty of New England, brother. That's
hey, it ain't gonna be that much better in Ohio, all right?
No, come on. It's part of life. Like I told my mom every time, she'll call, she goes, "Oh my God, it's so cold." I said, "It's okay, Mom. I work indoors." If I was working on the telephone lines or hard labor outdoors, then the weather conditions would be a real problem for me. But no, it's Dayton's good. They're old again, another old team. Deron Holmes, preseason player of the year, 3-year starter. Kobe Brea shooting, 3-year guy. He's shooting 54% from the 3-point line. Colby Elvis, I think he's either a 3 or 4-year guy. I'm not sure, but he's shooting 43% from the 3-point line. They got to transfer in a young man, Santos, who can really play. Brought him in from Pittsburgh.
He's over 50% too from 3-point.
Yeah, he's giving him a great dynamic playing. Technically he plays the 4 spot, but he plays just like those other, like Colby Elvis and Brea. He's just the taller of the 3. And then they got a point guard from Merrimack, who's a 5th-year guy. And early in the year, he playing a different system. He was, I don't want to say shaky, but he was unsure. That's a better word. He's playing at a high level right now. There's a reason Merrimack won their league with him as their point guard. There's a reason for this. And so now he's adapted to the way Dayton wants him to play, and I'm sure Dayton's figured him out too. So they're good. They don't make mistakes. They're defensively, they're really disciplined. They don't gamble. Anthony Grant's teams are always amongst the best defensive teams in the country because of that. There's no they don't get, I used the language when I got hired here, we're not going to get out of the way. Well, he and I learned it together when we were kids. He teaches the same thing. They don't get out of the way. They don't reach. They don't gamble. You have to be very disciplined in your assignments offensively against their defense. And then the bottom line, we got to do 2 things. We got to make some jump shots. You're going on the road. You got to make jump shots. Number two, you got to get offensive rebounds. It's you can't have a bad day in those two departments offensively and expect to win against a team like Dayton, especially on the road.
You mentioned Anthony Grant. He's in his, I think, 7th season there. He was at VCU for 3 years before Shaka Smart, went to Alabama. But you guys go way back. You literally meant you learned it together when you were, coming up. So where does that relationship begin with Coach Grant, and where is, like, how close are you guys today?
Yeah, he didn't know who I was, but he was like a star youth player when we were all, 13, 14 years old in Miami. But we ended up at the same high school. He used to be at a private school, and I was at a local public school. And then he ended up at our high school for his sophomore year. So we met in 10th grade English class when we were both 14 years old as 10th graders. He's all class, man. He's work ethic, commitment, team guy, loyalty, honest. He's all class. He's as good a human being as I've ever been put in front of. He's driven. I tell people all the time because I've got this reputation, self-earned. It's not given to me without me giving people the right to give me this reputation of being loud and allowing anyone to know when I'm not happy with something. Anthony's always been like, because as a teammate, he was the same way. The world had no idea how hard that fire burns in that belly because he don't show it to you. But he is the most competitive a guy as I've ever been around. Like when he was the assistant in Florida, I was the head coach in Miami and at the high school at Miami Senior, our high school. Like nobody outworked him in recruiting. And I used to say, like, you don't have to, bro, you're my brother. You don't have to call me 10 times a day. Like, leave me alone. I've got a job. I got to teach class. Yeah, but I heard so-and-so called. I said, stop. You're not getting backdoored in recruitment. Now, you got to do your job, but I'm not letting anyone come in here and backdoor you. But that's how competitive he is. Now, nobody would ever know that. That's why he's such a good recruiter. That's why his teams are so disciplined, is because of how honest and how competitive he is. He's like and strong, man. He is one mentally strong human being. So I'm Jay, I'm lucky, man. The good man upstairs has put unbelievable people in my life as I've been in my journey, and Anthony is right at the front of the line with the kind of people that he's put in front of me, so I can learn from.
Is it hard for you to coach against?
Oh, I can't stand it.
Like that?
I can't stand it. I don't like coaching against friends. Like Dan Brott, Dan Brought's a friend from Duquesne. I respect the heck out of Keith. But we didn't grow up together. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I deal with it. With Anthony, man, this journey started for us, 40 years ago, 43, 44 years ago. That's when it started for us, our friendship. And, him, Hugs, Andy Kennedy, guys like that, man, I really struggle coaching against because basketball has nothing to do with our relationship. And, Anthony's, we're as close as, he's my son's godfather, my Brandon, who played for us last year. It's, we've families vacation together. It's a complicated deal. My mom probably roots for him before she roots for me. That's how.
Come on.
She absolutely loves Anthony.
And he's had, not to dovetail too far away, but I was looking at the year by year and kind of the poor luck they had. You want to think your team might have been snake bitten. They had the number 3 team of the country and Obi Toppin, of course, during that COVID year, where they most likely would have made a run in the NCAA tournament. Have you ever talked to him about that and the kind of the feel or maybe regret for just that year that just kind of got tossed away?
And he no, because
Doesn't
I know
bring it up,
him.
does it?
I know him. It's just he doesn't sit there and say why did it have to be? He was national coach of the year. Obi was national player of the year. They're a top 3 team in the country. I think they had one loss all year, and
Yeah, 26-1, or I can't remember.
I think they had one loss all year. And uh, um, but no, I've never had that conversation with him because I know him. He's not going to sit there and say, well, can you believe that, the year we're really good and we got a chance, this happens. It's not, that's not how he is. He just, he believes it's all, the journey's written, man. And our jobs is just to live it every day. And, he's a man of faith and a man of strong beliefs. And, so I've never had that conversation with.
Okay, before I let you go, let's talk about, which I know you don't like that saying, but I can't get it out of my vocabulary, so I'm stuck with it. All right. Let's talk about the 3-point line, because this Dayton team, as you mentioned, they just shoot threes. Your team had a pretty good lead in that second half against Duquesne without a 3-point make. And in fact, only a handful of 3-point shots. So that one is rare in today's modern basketball, where guys just chuck up threes. Do you ever, during the game, do you look up and say, hey, we don't have a 3-point make yet? Does that ever cross your mind when you're actually in the act of coaching?
Yeah. Well, after being here for a year and a half now, Jay, I'm not going to let you go because you helped me too damn much. So
Okay, appreciate
I'm not letting you go. I, I, it, I'm, people want to call me old school, whatever. They call me whatever school they want. I don't care. The game has not changed. The way you win is still the same. You better shoot free throws and you better score at the rim. If you can do that, you collapse defenses. When you collapse defenses, then you pitch it out and you make step in threes. Now you got some guys like Steph Curry who make crazy off the dribble threes. Well, there's a reason those guys make $60 million a year. But the guys we coach don't make $60 million a year. And if they were that good shooting that shot, they'd be playing for me for 1 year or not at all. So once I say all that, our job is to develop our players and grow them. But to win games, you still have to get to the line and you got to score in the paint. That's how you defeat defenses. And then it's game to game to game. Duquesne's defense, their point guard was small. The young man from Detroit, Rivers, maybe his name escapes me right now. Tough kid, small. Day Grant is my height.
Rozier is his name.
Rozier.
Yeah.
Day Grant is my height. Jimmy Clark is 6'2", 6'3", somewhere in there. Everyone else on the roster is 6'5", 6'6", and above. So they really get after you on the perimeter. If you just settle for threes, you're trying to shoot threes oversized. I don't think that's an intelligent play. So you got to collapse their defense. And our whole goal was to continue to attack the paint. That's why in the first half, I think we attempted 20 free throws because that was our goal. Get inside their defense and make them foul and score in the paint.
16 to 20. Yeah.
Okay. We missed some dinks. We had some opportunities in the first half we just missed, but we were attacking the paint and getting fouled and making free throws. In the second half, then I think we made 2 or 3 threes. I got no idea. But yeah, and I think both were Jaylen Curry, and they both happened right when we kind of popped the game open. But I was really proud of the guys for that because we stuck to our game plan. We continued, and I said this on the radio after the game. Jay Curry shot a 3 early in the first half, and he was playing well, but he shot a 3 before the ball ever had an opportunity to get the paint, and we hadn't passed it. And he shot an air ball. I didn't take him out because he shot an air ball. I took him out because he broke the game plan. And the game plan was get the ball in the paint, not shoot threes. Get it in the paint, then shoot threes after that. And that's, as a freshman, that's the journey, and he handled it like a champ. He knew I didn't take him out for an air ball. He knew I took him out because of the decision he made. Because that's what they want. Because now they get out and run, and they got all those athletes, and they're old, and you can't slow that train down when it's coming at you. So, but that's the objective is, as a coach, if you ignore the 3-point line, you're cheating your team. But if you fall in love with the 3-point line and you forget about collapsing defenses, your team's going to lose. And so we got to learn both. We got to utilize both. I think we got the opportunity to be a better 3-point shooting team than what we've shown lately. But we're still in the learning process. So we're learning to score in the paint, learning to attack the paint, and eventually some of those threes will be available, and obviously we'll make our share.
Coach, good luck this weekend. I'll be with you out there in Dayton. We'll talk on Sunday, and appreciate you taking the time.
Footer on the way. We got a footer coming our way, baby.
Watch out. It'll be like 3 inches, right? They like to hype these things up. Man. All right. He's Coach
That's
Frank
like
Martin.
recruiting.
That's
They
it.
say, hey, I got a footer for you. You show up, the guy's 6'6". I'm like, come on, man.
You got to measure when they put their hair up. Like you got to add that too. All right. He's head coach Frank Martin. He's just being Frank. I'm Jay Bird on this podcast and brought to you by our great friends at the Massachusetts Collective. Be a part of UMass basketball and do your part by becoming a member. We will talk to you on Sunday from Dayton. See you later.